Welcome back to the Tailosive Haircut Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Nick, you might have missed the memo. It's haircut week.
Actually, I did get a haircut, although I don't let my haircut times go very, very long. But you do see I do have a crispy haircut, too.
If it's not as drastic as Drew and I, then it doesn't count. I'm taking off the headphones.
Nothing changed.
Yeah. So
9 o'clock every day he cuts his hair.
I do. Just like John
micron.
Morrison.
where do you get this John Morrison thing from?
Just like John Morrison. I don't know.
From people I know.
He does not get his hair cut every day. Anyway, yeah, Nick, you missed the... Are you kidding me? Oh, I did it again. But okay, hang on. Trust me, I'm still recording on my end, but I don't know what's
Just
happening.
keep going.
Poor Randy. Keep talking, Randy.
I want you guys to know. Actually, I want you to know, Nick, and people at home. So I got a haircut, and when I shaved everything down, Drew the next day does his live stream, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to be just like Randy." So, ta-da! I'm glad I inspired you, buddy.
Yes. For the record, I don't think you even posted before I went live.
Ooh.
On Instagram, I did.
Ooh.
Oh, I don't follow you on Instagram.
Ouch! The horrors.
We'll say it was in the back of my head.
Oh, okay.
I was inspired.
Yes, and you can be subconsciously inspired by Randy. Like, he is that inspirational
I think
sometimes.
so.
You can just be subconsciously inspired by Randy. You wouldn't even know it, but you're just inspired by him.
We were talking about cutting it for like a week leading up to that. But it was only because Randy was imposing on the fourth dimension.
Yeah, pretty much.
So he knew it was time. I'm glad we scheduled that well. Good job.
Yeah, I'm glad we actually got the same high and tight. We just need to get Nick on board now. Then we'll be in that.
I'm always high and tight, Randy.
That's not a high and tight.
Yes, it
if
is.
If you got a high and tight, our friendship would be in that uncanny valley where people won't know if we're really good friends or if we're really gay.
Drew, what did you think about the MagSafe Battery Pack?
I love you guys.
I love it.
You love it.
Can't
Okay.
wait to get it.
Did you order one?
I'm curious what you think. I did.
Okay.
It gets here ASAP. I was at the dentist actually when it came out. So I would have loved to.
Hold on. You have no, I know you're
Give me a
filling up
minute.
the cavity here. Just hold up. Give me a minute. I need to buy
If
this
I was
product.
working that day, I would have had a video up in 10 minutes.
Obviously.
But
You already have one
unfortunately,
pre-recorded.
I was. Yeah. I recorded it back in February. So, what'd be funny is if, like, a long rumored product came out and the video was, like, filmed in the old office.
Has the
and
old
it just goes live.
intro. Has the old music.
Yes.
But it's, like, shockingly accurate. The MagSafe Battery Pack is $99. Has 11 watt hours, and everyone's like,
How did he know
wait,
that?
what?
But like, it's
I could
compatible
do
with the
that with a
iPhone
green
10.
screen, I guess. If I got a green screen, I could
Ooh.
actually really fool people,
Ooh.
probably. If I did like a iPhone 13 recap video.
Do it for
from
April
the,
Fool's.
from the attic.
Drops 5 seconds before the keynote starts.
You should
you
have
should
actually
do,
done
Drew,
that
is-
when you got your haircut. You should have just done that, and everyone would have been like, "Wait a minute, what?" So next time, keep that in mind.
Is this an old video? Yeah.
Go
you're right.
back and find an old video that, because Apple has been known to do this from time to time. Find an old video that you reviewed about on something, and just dub over iPhone to iPhone like 13 or 4, whatever. Like, because you'd be like, well, so this one has a brand new camera module. The iPhone 13 will now come with one extra lens, and
Yeah.
it'll work.
That would work.
That would work.
I think an AI could take over my job eventually.
Yeah.
If I don't see that as a problem unless the AI is getting paid, then I see that as a problem.
They can take a cut. 30% is fine. I won't fight them on that.
31% though, no deal.
Yo, imagine AI gets so good at negotiating their salary or their range that they actually and they always find a way to just beat you. And it's like, I'm not going any lower than $1,200 to sell this iPhone, and they find a way to convince you to sell it for $700. That'd be cool.
They throw in 120 hertz and portrait mode video and the best battery life.
Done.
And we're all like, dang it.
I
Okay,
gotta
got
buy
it.
one.
I see a lot of people this week. They were asking me on some of my streams, and then I saw on Twitter as well. I'm sure you got this, Drew, maybe. But some people, not everybody, there's people in the camp that think that this MagSafe wireless charging will only be accessible for the iPhone 12 series because of these strengthened coils that are going to be allegedly coming out in 2 months, that it might not fit the same way. To which I was telling them I disagree. I think even if it got like a wider thickness of the ring itself, it will still clip all the same. To honestly, since using 11 Pro again, this thing still clips to the MagSafe Duo. You know, it's not strong, but it does
just a little, a little bit.
So, in my opinion, this is a very good future-proofing product that for $99, screw it, get it. I'm not getting it just because my habits are different with the phone, especially since I'm not rocking the 12 mini right now. But even if I was, I don't think I would get it. Because you brought up a good point as well, Drew, that it's not reversible in the sense that you can't, it's not inductive. You can just set it down and have both of them charging at the same time. And to me, if it had that, I would be more inclined to get it personally. Yeah.
I'm still unsure because I know that it can receive a charge wirelessly because the iPhone 12 has reverse wireless charging, and Apple decided to keep that a secret all along, which I thought was funny. To me, that says a lot about how they view reverse wireless charging. To me, that's like, well, we could have done that all along, but that's stupid. So we're not going to do it.
We don't want to do that.
Why would you want that?
So I like that because all these leakers are like, this year's iPhone might allow for reverse wireless charging, and then Apple's like, oh, you had it. You're just not getting it.
You just won't know about it.
Like
they're doing with the phone what we think Elon will do with the battery cells for future cars. That you've had it all along. You just didn't know it.
But my camera's all catty wampus on me.
Wampus caddy? Uh-oh.
Well, while you're sorting that out, what do you think about that, Nick? Do you think...
Oh, boy. It's almost like Tim Cook himself was listening to the Talos of Tech podcast last week.
Yeah, we were talking about that, right?
Literally 30 minutes of the show is me complaining about there not being a better battery option for the 12 mini. And Tim was like,
that's right.
Here you go. $99. But I didn't buy it.
Oh,
interesting.
I know, the intrigue.
I wonder what Nick did buy.
Okay, yeah. So it came out on Tuesday.
Bought another Mac,
right? I bought another Mac. Got another Mac Cube going. I'm getting G4 Cube.
He's gonna use
because the
a 16-inch MacBook Pro specifically as a battery bank for his iPhone.
Yes, that sounds very cost effective.
He didn't get the wireless MagSafe battery charging because that needs Mac OS.
It should have Mac OS. We should have Mac OS.
Maybe it does.
Whoa.
And they didn't tell us.
They just let the wireless charging.
Mac OS was in you all along.
Aww. Yeah. So the day that Apple announced this battery pack, which I don't know how you guys heard about it, but I didn't hear about it from an Apple press release or a Mac Rumors tweet. Literally, one of my friends texted me a link to the Apple Store website. And I saw the link.
Yeah, that was me. You told me.
Oh, I did? Okay, well, I think I showed the link.
I was at the dentist, and my messages was blowing up. I was like, what's going on? So I opened it up, and it's you guys with the link. And I was like, oh, crap. And I bought it right away, and I knew nothing about it.
Was that Mike who sent the link?
No, it was Ryan from Discord. And so, I saw it on my watch, and it came in, a message from Ryan. I looked at it, and I saw it was an Apple Store website link, and he sends me Apple products, on the refurbished store from time to time. Like, ooh, good deal on an iPad or whatever. And so I was looking at the link, and I was reading it. It was like apple.com/MagSafe/battery pack or whatever. And I was like, I wonder if that's like someone found the link to an unreleased product or something, because I've heard nothing about this. So I get out my phone and tap on the link, and it opens in the Apple Store app, and it's like, for $99. And I'm like, wait, what? I did like 2 double takes. It was kind of weird. I didn't end up buying it because literally an hour and a half before I got that text message, like literally an hour and a half before that text message, I spent over $100, over $120 on batteries.
It wasn't meant to happen, Nick.
It was not meant to happen. So I'm not mad. I am much happier with the battery.
The universe is talking to you. Normally I'd be like, oh, go return it. Say, I have a feeling because it happened so quickly like that.
Yep.
It wasn't meant to happen.
I think Tim has Randy level of investigation. Like, honestly, whenever Nick makes a new account, Randy gets a little notification on his phone. Tim has the same thing with Nick, and it was like, hey, Nick spent hundreds of dollars on something that wasn't made by Apple. So as soon as they got that notification, they were like, we better get these battery packs out there because
who do you think
we're losing Nick's money.
Tim?
Oh,
exactly.
Okay.
You went to his house.
All right.
Explain how this all works.
I would never show up at his house uninvited.
That's invited.
Anyway,
Invited,
absolutely.
I'll be right there.
So what I
You'll
did
bring
end
the
up
wine.
buying is probably a little bit more useful. I found 2 battery packs that have 30,000 milliamp hours. 30,000 milliamp hours.
Jeez, my goodness.
That
You
is
can't take that on the
60,000
plane,
milliamp
can you?
hours.
what?
You can't take that on the plane. Can
No,
you?
no. All over the package, it was like, "This is not FAA approved. Do not
Yeah.
take this on an airplane. This can't
You
come on
got
an
something
airplane."
so big you can't. That's cool. That's really
And-
cool.
So I'm gonna use it.
That's how you know it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how
You can't take
know
it on a
it's like-
flight.
Yo, that's not some over-the-counter stuff. I tell you that much.
They're
Went
not.
to a guy in a trench coat. We need batteries.
Bring me an everlasting God stopper, and I will make
There's
you
some-
rich.
There's like 5 4680s in there.
There you go.
From
Yeah,
Cato
that's-
Road.
They're just soda cans. Yeah, so each one of these battery packs will charge up my MacBook 1.5 times, and for the content that I'm about to start making
Whoa.
here, having 3 charges of my MacBook available at any moment is important. And for the price, honestly, I'm not complaining because it was like $120 for both of those, and I could have spent basically $120
that's not
bucks
bad.
after shipping and taxes on an itsy bitsy little phone charger. So I'm not disappointed. Maybe I will say this: I might get it come like good. What is it?
Black Friday?
Black Friday. Yeah.
You're going to say Good Friday.
Good Friday. I was like, that's not right.
I love my Good Friday
That
sales.
already
now.
passed. Sorry, that already passed.
that one.
Next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Black Friday.
Mark your calendars, everyone. Good Friday sale.
Good Friday sales. Right around Easter, there's some real good sales around there. Everyone's trying to move their merchandise before the holiday season. If it's like $79,
He has risen because the battery is charged.
it just had to recharge the battery.
It only took 3 days.
It only took just to charge it. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Wonderful.
Anyway, if
Oh,
it's
I
like
missed you guys.
70 something bucks over Black Friday, I will consider getting it. But other than that,
So you don't think it's a bad product?
it's not a bad product. I don't have anything specifically against it. I just would rather spend $100 on 2 more of these huge battery packs than I could have a total of like 6 MacBook recharges.
Sure.
If it's safe to say it's not going for maximum amount of energy storage, I think it's probably the same. If people think this is stupid, it's kind of like saying AirPods are stupid. There's cheaper wireless headphones on the market. It's like, this isn't for best performance. This isn't for biggest battery that you can. I saw people on Twitter comparing it to battery packs. They were like, you can get a 10,000 milliamp hour pack for 70 bucks. I'm like, that's not what this
Yeah,
is.
that's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't what this is going for. The idea with this is you don't need a cable.
Exactly.
And
That is
it
really
slaps on the
nice.
back easily. And to me, what's a huge selling point is no button. I know that there's an Anchor MagSafe pack, and someone else had one, Lenovo or something. Mophie had a MagSafe pack that you could slap on the back. But similar to smart battery cases versus third-party battery cases, the iOS intelligence is what makes the difference. The iPhone knows the difference between being charged and being charged from the battery pack, whereas with an Anchor or a Mophie, it's not going to know the difference. It's going to treat itself like it is plugged in, and it's going to use cellular like it's plugged into an infinite wall charger. So it's smarter because it's going to still recognize that it's running off of a battery and not consume as much energy as it would. And you don't have to turn it on and off, like check it. Oh, is this on? Let me check the indicator lights. Let me see what the percentage is. Or, okay, it's at 50%, 75, or 100.
Yeah.
With the pack, it'll tell you exactly the percentage, slaps on the back, and it does all the thinking for you. So it's meant to be a convenience sell. That's where your money's going.
They
100%.
do the Apple thing. Oh man, I just smacked it. They do the Apple thing with the UI, which is all about the overall experience. And one thing that I've always liked about Apple's not wireless charging, but their external battery bank for your phone is that like you're on that what you were talking about, Drew, with the no button thing. They're the only ones that I've used, because I've tried a few of these other guys before in the past with the iPhone 6 and 7 series. That it knows when to stop charging, like not to waste the thing going. So what happened in the past, if you hit the switch on, it would keep juicing it, even though it's at 100, and it's not doing anything with it, and thus it's depleting that reserve, that battery reserve. And I read future iterations fixed that, so I was happy to see that. But it felt like when you're using like Windows or something, it just felt a little clunky. Like it wasn't nothing innately wrong with it.
It just wasn't designed by Apple in California.
It felt clunky. It
doesn't have the logo.
That's
the main problem.
That's the problem.
I'm waiting for the Max. What if the Mac? What if the MagSafe just goes and it does the animation we saw with the AirPower? AirPower's dead, and it just did the little thing when it.
I'm sure it has the MagSafe animation, like when you put a case on.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure it at least has that.
I like the iPhone 10's animation. That was always cool.
It could do that. No, I agree. That would be nice.
Yeah.
But I like that you can convert it into a 15-watt MagSafe charger.
Yes, that is
if
very
it's
nice.
at a desk. That was neat. So you just plug a cable into it, and now it charges really fast. Unplug it. I'm fine with it charging slow because it's a convenient charge rate, so you want it to kind of go slow
What are we talking
on
about?
the go. The MagSafe Pack, if you're just out and about and you're not plugged into anything, it charges your iPhone at 5 watts wirelessly. But
okay.
Which is the
if
most
you're at a
efficient
desk
that they can get at a decent charge rate. You know, they can't.
And
you don't want to blast
slightly
10 watts
preserve
and just
battery
have
health.
80% of it go to heat. That's a big waste when you're on a
Sure.
battery.
Right. But if you're at your desk and you plug a lightning cable into the pack, now it charges the iPhone at 15 watts.
Gotcha. Oh,
So you basically get that same fast charge rate that you would get from a MagSafe puck. It can turn into, it's like a lightning to MagSafe puck adapter
yeah.
in one device that you can now also take with you because it has a battery.
Unfortunately,
And
we would only get the 12-watt variant.
Yeah.
Right, but I
On
look
the
at
Mini.
that as a selling point because the 12 Mini, percentage-wise, charges at the same rate at 12 watts as a 12 would at 15. So it's not technically slower. It's just it consumes less power. I also found it funny that people were complaining about wireless charging being worse for the environment.
What?
It is
like-
slightly, but
Wait.
It's so slight.
also
It's like, also, if we're going to go that far, the 12 Mini is better for the environment than the 12 Pro Max.
this is way true. Totally.
Because it consumes way less power than the 12
Actually,
Pro
an old
Max
iPhone
does.
6 is better for the environment than an iPhone 12 mini. Actually, a flip phone.
I'm about to go
Technically,
sell
yeah.
my car right now because
Apple Silicon is better for the environment than Intel
Boo.
or Qualcomm.
Ooh.
All iPhones are better for the environment than all Androids because Androids are less power efficient and have bigger battery capacities and consume more energy. Like with Android phones, people were bragging about, man, it's got a 5,000 milliamp hour. Man, it's got a 6,000 milliamp hour. Yeah, that's less efficient, consumes more energy compared to using a smaller and more efficient iPhone. But no one talks about that. They just suddenly bring it up with wireless charging for some reason. I don't know why, but
And I do understand. I mean, there's some waste heat involved, but
yes.
like, have you felt your MacBook charger? Like the power supply brick on your MacBook it gets hot too. It's just how our power grid works, right? We have to those transformers up on your street, those little buckets, those things get really hot. They have a bunch of oil in them to keep them cool.
Eating fast
Right.
food is bad for your health. I mean, like, you know what this is.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I just mean it's such a minuscule part of the problem.
exactly.
Like 70% of our energy consumption is HVAC. That's where your problem is. If you leave your fridge open for an extra 10 seconds.
It's the wireless charging and efficiency.
We do use a lot of power as humans. Our phones are not the problem. That's all I'm trying to say.
We are the problem.
It's
We HVAC. Like we were gone for several weeks away from our house, and this is tech. I'm gonna go off on this. I
Do
don't
it.
care.
Let's do it.
This is. We left everything off and we unplugged everything because we were curious. We wanted
Okay.
to see what our energy consumption would go down to. So we unplugged our computers, We unplugged the AC. We unplugged all the speakers, the TV, the lights. Everything was
fridge?
literally detached.
The fridge?
Everything but the fridge and the security cameras, because we had stuff in the fridge and we didn't want it to all go spoiled. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Starlink,
if he unplugged
cameras,
Starlink but
fridge.
kept security cameras plugged in, that would be a bad.
The cameras could do literally nothing without Starlink.
Yeah.
But Starlink is just one outlet.
Yeah.
And
I think it's
not
strong,
moving,
50 amps, though.
you know.
Or 50 watts over the...
Yeah, I'm sure it draws a
internet.
bit.
I know, Nick, but wait. He's going
Yeah,
somewhere.
go ahead.
That's
Go ahead.
the point.
I'm curious.
Yeah. So with those 4 things plugged in, there are 2... no, there's, I guess, a couple security cameras more than that. But they're very small, and they use little 5-watt bricks.
Mm-hmm.
We were still consuming over 4 kilowatt hours a day,
Oh.
even when we were gone for like several weeks.
Oh.
So the moral of the story is your refrigerator is basically a little HVAC system in a box, and that is consuming far more electricity because we compared it to our average days. You know, when we're running everything, when we have lights on and computers, and we were consuming, 10 or 12 kilowatt hours a day. So even with all of that turned off, HVAC, heating and cooling, consumes far more than everything else, because that wasn't counting the AC system, which is by far the biggest consumer. When we're running that, obviously that's when the numbers get much higher. So I just think it's funny when people get caught up on little details like that. I'm like, if you're worried about the environment from switching to a lightning charger to a wireless charger, you better like have a picture of the inside of your fridge and only open it for like 5 seconds and close it right away. If you ever open the fridge and just start looking, you've instantly consumed far more power than your wireless charger is going to waste compared to a wired charger. It's such a small little difference that people get hung up on, but
It reminds me of the GIF
well.
I see on Twitter a lot where a guy opens the thing, he's just, and he just walks away.
Yeah.
He opens his fridge, and that feels like it's me. That's the experiment you tried. That's cool, but the unfortunate thing is that it didn't matter. And honestly, I think if people are throwing some toot about wireless, whatever, they're just doing it because it's an easy target. The keyboard warriors like to come out on easily like, you should be vegan. It's better for the environment. And I was like, it's everybody has this idea of how to make it, right. But these are things that you live off of. Like, obviously, you're not going to unplug the refrigerator. Obviously, I'm going to charge my phone. However, I damn please. So this is, bad for the environment. It's like, all right, well then go to Mars or something. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I hope everyone who's complained about that owns an electric vehicle. That's anyone who's complained. It's like if you drive a combustion engine.
Actually, Drew, I take the bus because it's better economically for the
Electric buses.
Natural gas bus or something. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm excited for it because as things have been opening up more, we've been going out a lot more regularly. We've been visiting with family. Family's been coming up and visiting, and we've been going out to more restaurants. Although I've heard they're going back now. They're putting the masks back on. But basically, we're going out and about more. So having a way to slap some extra juice on my 12 mini and knowing that this could potentially, most likely, I think will work with my next iPhone, which will have probably an overkill battery.
Mini. True. You're not upgrading this year. Come on. They're not giving you 120 hertz this year.
If Drew does not get 120 hertz, he has said on record he won't update.
I'll stand true to that. And I don't think I've been doing the every year saying this is my last one. Go back and find my old video. I don't think I was saying this is going to be my last year or I'm only going to upgrade for this. I don't think I was saying that in years prior.
My memory is perfect, and I could tell you, okay, I am a flawless human. So
right.
Kika snuck in here and got. Oh my God! Before I started recording, my dog, I kicked her out, and now she's in here scratching again. So sorry if anybody hears that. The only thing that you've been consistent on, from my perfect memory, is the refresh rate. You wanted the promotion. You said bring this to iPhone, and I was
black bezels.
What you did before that was everything in your mind, because you thought it was going to happen sooner, was in prep of wireless charging. You're like, all right, well, I got all the things and this, that. So if we're locking it all down, cameras are getting, it's diminishing returns with the camera features and this and the other. You're like, one thing that would be nice to have since having promotion on the iPad is have it on the phone. You got your OLED. You talked about that. You got the wireless charging. You talked about that. You got even the peripherals, the headphones and everything or earbuds and stuff like that. Everything in your little iPhone ecosystem was established for you to be like, okay, this is optimal iPhone for me. Everything but the refresh rate. So I don't know if somebody same person who does the timestamps. Go find Drew's statement.
The guy who has every episode memorized.
I think that was Jay last week.
Oh, good job,
thanks,
Jay.
Jay.
Hey, Jay, go dig something.
Well done.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. But
yeah.
I may not have gotten the colors I want, but I think I've been somewhat consistent with my hatred of chins and bezel color and wanting high refresh rate on all things. As soon as I got the 2017 iPad Pro, that's when I instantly wanted it on everything. As soon as I booted that up, just hit the first little English, and then next slide, I was like, I noticed it instantly.
I want it.
So I don't think I'm gonna be like the boy who cried wolf, saying like, this is the last year I upgrade. Like, I'm pretty sure I'll stay true to this one.
Windows versus PC is the whole, like, it's going to be different this time.
It's
trust
going to be different this time.
That's you with, this is my last iPhone this time.
Yeah. I genuinely can't. We talked about it last week, but I can't figure out what they could add to the iPhone that's going to make me like, I absolutely need to upgrade.
Here's Nick's, and maybe it might be tipping for you. I know, and Nick's never said this outright, but this is how Nick's final form for iPhone, where he'll be like, I'm stopping here regardless, is the perfect 2 slabs of glass on the antenna band. No bumps, no nothing. Perfect Johnny Ive visioned iPhone. That is Nick's.
We'll never get that.
Yeah, we're never going to get that, Randy. I don't know. Why are you getting my hopes up, man?
Because, I mean, hey, who says they won't go thicker again? Holding 11 Pro got so chonky on me. I'm like, oh, God, please, Apple, go thick. Go on me because it's so... But 2 slabs of glass, at least. So in my mind, at least this is where I'm speculating with Nick, but I think as soon as the camera bump goes away and it's symmetrical with the 2 slabs of glass.
Camera bump goes away.
Bump.
Like that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
They've literally only made it bigger since it first came out.
Literally.
I'm not complaining. If it results in better photography or videography, I will take.
No, I don't mind it. I totally get it because most people wear a case anyway. So I get why they do it, but it's still, I would like it if they got rid of it. I wouldn't upgrade for that, but I would like it if they got rid of it.
See, the problem is, though, it's getting comically big now, though, Drew. Like, I
agree.
I think this year's probably the 11 series with the, 11 and 12, but with the extra bump extending where really the bump doesn't need to be just for the sake of there being a bump there. I think that's kind of the limit of, like, not insane looking. Even with the 12 Pro Max, its bump looks comically large compared to the other phones just because it's a larger phone and they kept the proportions the same.
And did you see the 13 Pro Max?
That's what I mean. It's only going to get more comically big.
We laughed at this when we saw the renders.
We did. I remember that podcast.
We scoffed.
It was January 2019.
Look at that. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, when the OnLeaks render first came out, it looked nothing like that. It looked like iPhone 7 style camera bump, but that square size. And that I was disgusted with. And then once we got closer to the actual design, which was like the 3 separate circles, I felt more okay with it. I don't know why I felt more okay. It just looked more natural to me. And now getting into the 13 Pro Max renders, which I'm sure, we're getting close to iPhone season again. I'm sure those are pretty accurate. It does feel like, Apple really doesn't care. They're taking this camera bump could be as big as it needs to be as long as we can make a better camera. No one minds.
Yeah.
Like, we were joking earlier, but we're literally not going to stop until this thing is like the entire back. I used to say that as a meme. Now I think that's actually what they're going to do.
It fixes the rocking problem.
It won't rock as much if the camera's just the entire... Because Apple got a patent. Here's news. People are like, oh, okay, next subject. Oh, that's just a natural podcast flow. Okay, here's news. Apple got a patent on a Periscope lens for the iPhone.
Ooh.
And those take up a large amount of horizontal space on camera modules, in case people are wondering why the Galaxy S phones have the big, wide, domino-looking camera module. It's because of the Periscope lens. It's using a 90-degree mirror reflection to make a bigger lens fit sideways in the camera, because our phones are skinny and rectangular. That way you can zoom really far, and they've apparently are going to use that in either next year's or the year after. I don't really care much about super zoom, so I'm not upgrading for that. But what it does worry me about is it means the camera module really shows no signs on getting smaller.
Yeah.
The Periscope lens should only make it bigger than it already is. There's no way you can adopt a Periscope and make it even tinier. So it's already huge, and we don't even have a Periscope lens yet. So that's what I mean by, like, we used to joke about it as a meme. Now I think they're actually going to do it. I think they are genuinely every year just going to get bigger and bigger until it's the whole thing.
Until it's just a Sony on the back of your iPhone.
Can we just have a giant, in replacement of MagSafe, you just have an EF lens mount?
It's just a Komodo on the back.
Just a giant mirrorless sensor. They got to get the battery and the A series chip off to the side to make room for this giant lens mount on
like
the back.
A full frame
is the brain.
35 mil sensor. Yes.
That's an Apple camera I wanted so bad.
There you go.
With extreme zoom, I agree with you, Drew. I would not find much use case because of the issue with that. Oh man, it cut out again. I didn't even touch nothing. I know I'm frozen, but I'm recording fine. The issue that I have with the concept of a super zoom is that when you start to punch in, unless Apple does something software-wise, it's going to be a very shaky image regardless. You know what I mean? Like it's,
usually,
when you get in there that much, it's hard for you to lock in. So unless Apple does something where it's like, it can't just be all hardware. It has to do something software-wise to keep it steady. So when you punch in, it knows what you're trying to look at and it keeps it centered for you. Otherwise, it's the super zoom feature just doesn't. I tried doing that with binoculars, looking far away. It's hard to lock on to something and have stability with that because the further you are, little shakes equal big movement. The further out you look. So,
Yeah.
And it's usually just like a slight enhancement too. It's like you can still see that stuff. It's just slightly less pixelated.
I guess.
As someone who takes a lot of pictures and videos and enjoys my photography stuff, I pretty much anything over like a 5x is how that's marketed, but anything over like a, I don't know, 85 to 100 millimeters or so, I would not want to be doing that handheld. It's just too much shake. No. You cannot keep that steady. Even if you prop it up on a rock or whatever, it's hard to deal with. And so, especially Samsung saying, oh yeah, 100x super space zoom, yay. It's like, that's literally not practical unless you have like an actual full-size tripod with like a ball head and like, a mount for your camera.
Just get the camera.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's like
you'll have a better image. Yeah, you'll have a better quality image.
The space zoom on the S21 is really great if you mount it to a tripod, take the phone off, and put a real camera on, and then attach a telephoto lens to that.
Yes.
And then you'll get some really good shots with the phone in your pocket.
You came for the S21.
It's getting into overkill. Like, we don't know what else to do with the phone, so we're just gonna come up with the most wild, miraculous things it can. But living without the telephoto lens for the past year, there's been for my use, there's been a small number of circumstances where it would have made a noticeable difference, and I'll get that back this year with the Max. So I'll have a telephoto lens, which is, I think, plenty for the point and shoot market. I think Apple's completely killed and overtaken anything that's for the general consumers point and shoot.
Absolutely.
But sorry, before we forget, the one use case I was thinking of with the MagSafe pack that I didn't talk about was in the future when we all have iPhone 12s or later, like 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be really easy instead of stupid bilateral wireless charging where you're with a friend and
Yeah.
someone's phone is about to die and you have to put your phone face down on a table and wait 30 minutes so their phone can charge 5% because wireless charging is slow and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that, with a MagSafe pack, you'd just be able to pull it off and give it to someone else
There you go.
in a pinch.
True.
You could just,
It's
if
kind of
someone's like, oh, shoot, my battery's low, you could just...
It's kind of like CPR, Drew.
Yeah.
You just like...
It's cheaper. It's universal. Oh, and CPR. I'm not talking about CPR.
This was a use case we didn't really have. Yeah, it's
Hospitals
cheaper.
don't. It's just CPR.
This was a use case we didn't really have with the battery cases in years prior because you had to make sure, oh, do you have a 10R? You know, or do you have the 10S or whatever battery case? With the battery pack, as long as the phones have MagSafe, which I think the next few generations will, you'll just be able to say, oh, you're low on charge. Here you go. And then they just slap it on the back, go about their day. Okay, thanks for the charge. Slap it off. Take it back. Just the ease of detachment, I think, makes a big deal. So
Sure.
I know it's not related, but anyway.
No,
I think
actually,
it's a good point, though.
I think that's a very good point there, Drew. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, obviously, right now the kind of thing is, oh, do you have an iPhone charger? Do you have an Android charger? And people who don't know much better will, that's the language that they use. But I think you're right. Going forward, people will be like, oh no, my phone's out of juice. And an iPhone user will be like, oh, you have an iPhone, right? And as those new Apple ads say, relax, it's iPhone. Dumb ad.
Yeah.
Dumb ads in my opinion. But they'll just be like, oh yeah, here, this has 30% or whatever. And you just pop it on and get you through the evening. That's a good point, Drew.
I do wish they made a battery pack that also could hold cards. You could make a wallet
It's
pack
just
combo.
two wallets. Or it's like, it's double thickness. It's just like huge.
I used to think something like that would happen, and now that they're pushing more of the Apple Wallet, putting digital cards, I think they're just trying to get rid of cards altogether. So
I'm fine with that too.
I'm 100%
if you can,
fine with that.
I'm waiting on California now because I would love a digital license, but I'm worried for if in the future I do get pulled over and say, well, it's on my phone now, officer, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I get arrested because I thought.
You was
But
so
it showed up
forced to
in
get
the-
arrested.
I'm on the developer beta. I get the driver's
You
license.
get a
and my
fix-it ticket, not arrested.
I'm just hoping. Well,
I
if
don't
you're
know,
caught
Randy.
driving without
You
a
haven't,
license,
you haven't
I
seen
don't
what
know.
Drew's been up to on those roads. There's a reason why he doesn't have a Tesla. Teslas
No, I
would
think
be
you can get
recording.
in trouble. You can get in trouble if you get pulled over without a license. That's a
Well, they'll
That's
it's,
not a little
it's,
slap
it's
on the wrist.
failure to provide identification or whatever, and it's an extra points and ticket on top of whatever you were in for to begin with.
Infraction.
Yeah, infraction.
So I just hope that when they legalize the digital ID, they bring all the sheriffs together and say, "Hey guys,
Okay, so
if they got it in the wallet app, it's okay. That counts. Have these little NFC readers ready to go for that.
Honestly,
and no one's gonna do it except for me for probably 7 years.
I think it's gonna be a lot like Apple Pay was back at the beginning, where like stores had Apple. Like I remember the first time I used Apple Pay, I had the iPhone. Was it 6? I had an iPhone 6, and I went into Subway. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to try Apple Pay. So I got my $5 footlong back when they were $5. I walk up, and it went up on the little reader, and I was just like, I wasn't even looking at it. It was a thumbprint thing. Ding! And I did the little tap, and the lady was just looking at me like, are you going to pay? And then she like looked over at her computer screen. And I was like, transaction completed? And she's just like, what? So that's what it's gonna be like with the cops
that
when they
still
do this.
happens to me. It drives
Really?
me nuts.
Oh, really?
That halfway through 2021, I'll still pay for things with my watch, and the people at the register are like, "Whoa, you can do that!" I'm like, oh.
That happens to me
been-
when it's raining and I just summon my car and people are like, "Whoa, you could do that!" I'm like, "Yeah, it's 2021."
That's still somewhat new, though. I can understand
Hey,
that. Apple Pay's been out since 6-7 years now.
This is true. Actually, I'm gonna talk about Apple Pay in just a second. But first, stamps.com. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted to finish a thought on the telephoto lens that you brought up, Drew, and
Yes.
something that Nick had made a comment about too, about missing it. So rocking with the telephoto again for the last week. I've been outside a lot, been taking photos and things like that. The camera module, we've talked about this before, and doing a side-by-side comparison, you find more use case using a wide angle and then the
False.
Hold on. Let me finish.
False.
Using the wide angle.
Fact
and
check.
ultra
False.
Wide angle.
My name is Donald Trump. False. False.
I'm down the middle on this one.
Extreme centrist in the middle.
I have not found an innate reason for telephoto unless I was trying to punch in on something with clarity. And it being a point and shoot for anything like quick related, the main camera is more than capable of just, if I needed to get in punch in a little bit, with using the deep fusion. What's the
deep fusion.
That
you got it.
Maintaining the image a lot better and punching in did give me the same effect of what I was trying to go for without things starting to get pixelated or blurry. And ultra wide was able to just give me more landscape scenery. The telephoto lens as a whole, I'm happy I have it, but it's not. I wasn't as like, oh, I'm so glad it came back. Like I thought I was like, oh cool, I got 3 now. I'm not using that one, and I know this will get fixed later. It's even more apparent for telephoto and ultra wide that it's not as good as the main sensor regardless. So that's why I never found myself leaning in one or the other. Ultra wide would only be for landscapes and scenery photos, and telephoto is because I'm trying to punch on something, which the deep fusion fixed for me. I don't miss it the way I thought I did, and if we did away with telephoto in a way that it didn't increase, where we get the whole back of the phone be this ultra zoom thing, I really don't know if people are going to use it the way they think they're going to use it. It's gimmicky, and maybe that's where Apple's at. We're so good we have to resort to gimmicks, but it does not feel like it's a need for those types of things. As long as the main camera, the wide angle, is constantly locked on and knows what it's trying to focus on really quickly, and then it does that post-processing afterwards, 9.5 out of 10, you're good on all fronts on that. So when it comes to points and shoots, I think the 12 mini, or anybody who has a non-pro from 11 and that, those are more than capable of being a daily, or not daily driver, but your main camera with you for on the go for point and shoots. When you want to get specific, then specifics that obviously changes the narrative. But the telephoto is not as magical as I remember, especially because we used it for portrait mode with iPhone 7. So
you had to.
You had to. It was when that got taken away. It's like, oh, I use portrait mode for the front-facing camera now more than anything. Get in this photo, guys. Hey, and then that did the job just fine. So I was expecting to like it more when I got back, and I don't. So the idea of doing more with it later, I'm good. You know what I mean? Just
rag.
I get what you mean. But I know Nick values telephoto.
Yeah, I'm gonna destroy your whole argument there, Andy, with one sentence. The human eye perceives the visual landscape at about a 50 millimeter equivalent, which is about the 2x telephoto. I rest my case. If you want to capture reality the way that it was the way that you viewed it and the way that you saw it.
Don't shoot it on an iPhone if you want to capture reality.
Okay, sure. But as an iPhone 12 mini user, who his biggest worry leaving the Pro series was giving up that 2x telephoto, and you're like, don't worry about it. You won't even notice. I notice every day, Randy. It's not show-stopping. I haven't not been able to take a picture, but it's always just wider than I want it to be. Like, for example, yesterday, I was sitting on the grass outside, looking at the sky above me, beautiful clouds. I went to take a picture of what I was seeing, and it was a lot wider than I wanted, and I couldn't punch in. And so now I got this wide picture instead of like focused in on the area, and that I couldn't compose it the way I wanted to.
Nick, I'm sorry. Have you stopped using your Sony as your main camera?
Well, I'm not going to take my Sony out when I'm just enjoying the clouds outside.
Well, then, because last time I recall, all these great photos you were taking since you moved to the 12 mini was always coming from the Sony anyway.
This is true. But there is that level of convenience. if we're talking about the level of convenience, then yes, I want all of the options. Yes, I want a wide angle and a telephoto, which is why I'm not gonna get a mini next year. Hopefully, I'll get a pro, because that will have all the options.
Next year or this year?
Next cycle, you know what I mean.
Thanks. The year begins when the new iPhone
This
comes
is literally
out.
true. The year begins.
Apple Sheep calendar year begins September something Tuesday.
Just a Tuesday.
Fiscal year.
I think
iPhone year. What you talking about?
I think the fundamental difference between you two is Nick is religiously against digital zoom.
Yes,
that goes
religiously.
Against, that goes against
on Good Friday. I'm religiously against.
He doesn't like the idea that if he pinches in while taking a picture, that's not actually zooming. He's just cropping, and Nick doesn't like that idea. Whereas Randy's like, it's got a good amount of detail. I still got my deep fusion, so if I just gotta pinch to zoom in, who cares?
It's when what's the point of pinching in or zooming? It's because you're getting closer onto a subject. Most of my pinch and zoom ins on telephoto was always of Kika anyway. Punching in with deep fusion, it's like, damn, I can see every hair or fur.
It's very good. I'll agree with you from my experience of zooming with the 12 mini a couple times. There have been, like, just the other day I was checking out my Starlink dish, and the moon was right over it. And I was like, this would be a cool shot, but obviously I didn't have a telephoto, so I just pinched in a bit more, took a photo, and it looked great. I was really happy with it. And I was like, okay, so it's not a real telephoto, but
oh, Nick.
I was... Obviously, it would look better if I had one, but the moon's still there. It's probably going to be there.
If you have a
probably
smartphone
gonna
camera
be
on you know what you're doing. You have a smartphone camera. If Drew goes, hey, I gotta go get the black magic. Then that's different.
I never do that.
You're setting it up. But if you do, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's convenient little.
Yeah.
And one thing I will give you, Nick, and I do agree, convenience is convenient. Having more. Why not? That's fine. But I think my issue why I stick with the been pinching in is because the other two or all the supplementary lenses have not been optimized the same way the main one was, the wide angle.
I'd agree with that.
So I can't. I can't find the same use case unless I was purposely setting up a shot. But if I'm setting up a shot, then I'm using the Sony. So in the moment, it's like if I'm just trying to capture something, then unless these other cameras, I will track everything I just said and go back on it when the other cameras get the same features as the wide angle. But until then, it's like the wide angle is almost intentionally meant to be the better of all of it. So it gives you a little bit of best of everything. So
I can understand why Apple has chosen to make telephoto lenses a pro feature, and they have not brought it to the entry-level iPhones, because to me it's like telephoto is an enhancement, whereas ultra-wide provides an additional angle. It's not enhancing the main lens, whereas that's what, telephoto, you can technically get that viewpoint. It'll just look a lot better on the telephoto, whereas ultra-wide, there's no zooming to get to that angle. So I totally get why they've brought ultra-wide to the 12 and 12 mini and the 11 instead of telephoto, just because they see that as like they can advertise it to more people and make a more noticeable difference with it. But I think I'm pretty confident in assuming Randy would buy a 12 or a 13 Pro Mini if it existed. If he could have all the lenses on the small phone, he would do it.
100%. And stainless steel. Yes,
I think
please.
you both would.
I would be all over that.
Drew, you know me so well; it's uncomfortable. That's true. I would take. Obviously, I'd take more, but it's. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be. Are they?
You're always wrong.
Improving the ultra wide and the telephoto this year to be more in line with the wide, or is that?
Sounds like it.
Like
what?
I don't know if it's diffusion or I don't remember. I remember like
just improving the sharpness of the ultra wide lens, I believe, is on schedule.
That would be
nice.
nice.
Or improving the depth of telephoto.
Gotcha.
So that's the plan.
Apple was, people said like, oh, Apple's working on a micro lens. I was like, that's not gonna happen. I just didn't see that.
Micro Four Thirds.
Yeah.
It's just like the MagSafe magnet ring. There's the sensor where the Apple logo is, and you just MagSafe and lens on top of it.
Ooh, there's a way to make this work. If Apple made their own camera.
Yeah.
with a manual lens attachment. It would be like a MagSafe type thing. You just like slap it on there, no twist. It just
and then you get
everything locks in.
Boom.
That sounds so satisfying to just.
I wish. I was just thinking, they're willing to go into the over-ear headphone market, and people, for all the reasons people have said Apple won't make their own camera, you could have applied that to over-ear headphones.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, they'd rather just make AirPods better. They'd rather
charge you $549 is what they'd rather.
Over-ear headphone market is so saturated. They would have to, go up against Sony and Bose, and it's just they couldn't separate and be their own thing. I'm like, heck yeah, they could. I think there's more of an argument. There's a hot take. I think they have more to offer to the dedicated camera market than they do the over-ear headphone market.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Standing ovation. At least what they've shown us with the AirPods Max. Like, those aren't studio headphones. Those are for
all
someone.
They really offered that the competition didn't have was really good transparency mode and I guess really good build quality with
the
steel
spatial
and
audio is weird. It when I turn it on, like I had somebody ask me like, "Oh, what's it like to have spatial audio?" Pretend you have headphones on and play a YouTube video from your phone and go like this. That's spatial audio. That's all that is. It's you have an anchor, which is the phone. And it's
I noticed Twitter has it now.
Do they? Oh, God.
It was so weird. I had my headphones on and I was watching a video on Twitter and I looked over to, check on something. I don't remember what I was doing, but I looked over and it all went to my right side. And at first I was like, "Oh no, my left AirPod went out. Something's wrong. Like it sounds way quieter." And then I went like this and it went to the left side. I was like, "Oh, what? Twitter has spatial audio now? What the heck?"
I forgot I had mine turned on for when you were streaming your haircut. I looked over. I was like, "Hey, so what's the scissors that you do?" oh, never mind. I thought it went out. But then I'm like,
it's very gimmicky to me.
Yeah, it's so weird. Mm-hmm. Like the point of having it in ears, I want it fed into my ears.
Yeah,
both ears.
I want it to be consistent audio no matter where my head is looking. I don't need it to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you remember when I told you I wanted spatial audio when they were bringing it to Apple Music, that the concept of being able to like move around and be immersed in something, and I had this idea of like, what if you turn around and you can hear different parts of the instrument? I did more research now since then, and what I would want to do artistically with spatial audio is not accessible. It's not capable of happening yet. So I'm not going to really try to dabble in spatial audio like that because it doesn't do I wanted to give a VR experience, but with music, and I can't. The best I can give you is really aggressive panning and give you things happening in different channels, but that's just hard left, hard right in the channels, and that's it. Spatial audio does not give me the immersion that I would want from from MR or VR. I guess AR too. Anything that has to do with this adjustment between the real and the digital. Mm-hmm. It's still gimmicky in the sense that I think it's a hardware limitation, not just with the headphones, but how it's able to send out that information, I guess wirelessly. Yeah. So spatial audio is a bust for me. I don't care what we do on the YouTube or I guess Twitter or everything else to turn your head and it's working. It's like I don't want it to just sound like
feels like overly complex engineering and software work to show off that they know how to do that, despite functionally it not really doing much. Like they were talking about in the group FaceTime calls, it'll sound like the person is coming from this corner of the screen. I was like, does that
on a 24-inch iMac cares? I might be able to understand that, but
I was gonna say on like an 80-inch iMac maybe.
Sure.
You need a really big there's a curved monitor or something. You could be like,
you have to want to make it happen for you to notice it. But if you have to tell me it's happening, it ain't happening. It's not there.
However, I'd say all of that's pretty gimmicky and show off, and they're just bored at this point trying to come up with cool features for AirPods. However, bringing AirDrop to a dedicated camera, that's not a gimmick.
How about
just
game
fixing
changer. AirDrop, Drew? Can we just start there?
Well, we can fix it after it's on a camera. I don't
Oh,
care.
okay. Fine.
As long as it works. As long as it works 60% of the time on a camera,
Oh, I'm a solid
already
30%
sold.
at the moment. It's terrible.
Just the idea that you could go out, take pictures, even video, and not have to pull an SD card out and throw it in your iMac, or
Drew,
have to get an adapter for your MacBook. And
have you met iPhone? It airdrops and takes
Yeah, I have.
pictures.
yeah, but you know what they don't film Apple events with?
Oh, here we go.
Samsungs.
Or iPhones. There's the iPhone is a great point and shoot, and I've heard people say that they'll just want to make the iPhone camera better, but any camera person can attest we are nowhere close to iPhones being ready to replace dedicated cameras, and Apple has to know that. For the same reason we know the MacBook Air is not anywhere close to replacing the Mac Pro.
Or the
But
iPad.
Apple makes both. Or the iPad. Rest in peace. Well, if I was selling merch, I would have a shirt for that. But
Too soon.
but Apple makes entry-level Macs for everyday people, and they make entry-level iPads for the average consumer. But they also make Pro Macs, and they also make Pro iPads that do way more that the budget iPad or the MacBook Air can't do, because they know there's some people that do more than that. And Apple is one of those people, because they do commercials, and they do their keynotes, and they do developer conference tutorial videos that are all high quality. And all of these Apple TV Plus shows, none of them shot on iPhone. You notice that.
It's because
If they were, they would make a big deal.
They couldn't fit an anamorphic lens in the iPhone's camera chassis. That's why
Of
they
course
couldn't
not.
film all of the Apple TV
And
Plus shows.
I'm fine with that for the record. I'm not suggesting they should. I don't think anytime soon Apple should be like, okay, all Apple TV Plus movie producers, time to start filming everything on the latest iPhone so that we can brag about iPhone sales. No, I think that would stifle creativity, and it's not a good idea because, like we've talked about before, smartphones are like 90% machine learning trickery and 10% actual lens capturing light, whereas a dedicated camera like a Blackmagic or a Red or a Sony, those are very little machine learning, and it's all about the light, and it's all about the sensor, and it's not trying to trick you. It's just that's what the image captures. And I think it's just realistic and logical to assume that that difference will always be there. I have been hearing that, well, they just want to make the iPhone camera better since 2013. Like, that's always been the excuse of like, well, the iPhone will get better, and it has, and it's great for the average consumer. But as Apple themselves films and produces so much video content that is definitely not capable of being shot on an iPhone, and I don't think we're like 3 or 4 years away. iPhone 15? Oh, yeah, say goodbye, Red Komodo. We won't need you anymore. We're going to have a Periscope lens, and therefore you won't need, lens attachments anymore. Screw anamorphic lenses. We have a A17 chip filter for that just adjusts all the bokeh balls in the background. Yeah. I don't think we're a couple of years away. I think there's always going to be a fundamental gap there. So just having AirDrop or Find My Network support for your camera, so you could track it down really easily and it's built in, and having it built into the ecosystem with the software being really easy to maintain and have a multi-touch display and still be able to have these variable lenses you can attach with actual bokeh and telephoto versus macro. And if Apple could start making the cameras they shoot their shows on,
Yes.
Ted Lasso shot on Apple camera, that would be such a great selling point to the camera if they talked about it on stage. Or like, I just think that if they're willing to go into the already crowded over-ear headphone market and say that, well, we want to do that because transparency mode and spatial audio, I'm like, okay, if they're willing to do that, I see no reason they shouldn't make their own dedicated camera, because why not? If Apple hadn't released AirPods Max yet and someone was suggesting they would, all of these people would be saying, well, they just want to make normal AirPods better. That's good enough.
I agree with you 100%. And I even more
Come
so,
on, Apple.
one thing that I don't like about every other dedicated camera that I think Apple would fix is, of course you're going to scratch when I'm starting to talk, thank you, is the settings, the menu setup
Yes.
and stuff like that. They would make that so intuitive and clean, and the way you would transfer files, the way you can wirelessly connect using like H1 chips and W1 chip, or H chips, W chips, M chips.
And they would give it their own silicon probably.
Yes,
Ooh.
To make it really
everything
high
about it would be
write
so
speed.
connected.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like talking now.
If they put like an M1 chip or even just an A15 or something, the write speed would be so high you could do really high frame rates and capture really high bitrate video and write it without tanking battery life. And yeah, they got the software side of things down, so they could have lots of easy ways to play back videos and pictures. And I remember when they first unveiled the 5K iMac way back in, I think it was 2015, the super high resolution. All monitors were starting to go 4K back then, and then Apple came out and they were like, we're going 5K. And one of the use cases of that was a lot of Canon and Nikon cameras could shoot at that resolution. Mm-hmm. So Apple was bragging, now you can actually view that resolution photography on a display that has that many pixels. And I still see that. I'm like, the iPhone's not shooting super high res, and they're still advertising. What?
Oh, no, I was going to say that I would also argue that they have more R&D with the whole camera than they do headphones and stuff like that. When they start taking headphones seriously, they have way more years of data and research and stuff that they put into their own camera lenses that I think it would have a much higher success rate. And it's going to be expensive. I'm
fine with that.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars. It's
absolutely.
fine.
I would like, it's coming out for $3,000-$4,000. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Because they're going to market as this all-in-one of software integration that works with such pristine. And here's $3,000 to $4,000 so you can watch it on the XDR display. This and that.
Right. It would have tons of XDR video formats
do
and
all
stuff.
of that. So
it would be like you could take pictures with it at a wedding if you wanted to, but you could also film like a TV Plus original or a Netflix original on it because the sensor's that good. They would try to make it like a one size fits all thing. I'm not saying everyone would switch to it, but I just
one size
I
fits
think there's
most.
so much potential there because I'm just sick of SD cards and CFast cards. And
even if they brought that to the next MacBook, I if you could give me a wireless option, I would be happier with it. You saw my cable mess up before we start recording. I hate cables. So yeah, even if.
And I would be totally fine with them not bringing back the SD card slot if they were making efforts to say this is the wireless alternative, this is the future of importing files and stuff. I guess it's harder with video because AirDrop has a certain bandwidth that they can't surpass. So when you're trying to transfer hundreds of gigs of footage, it can get tricky. But pictures, there's not really an excuse. Pictures are so low file size that airdropping even really high res photos wouldn't take that long. And
a lot of the problem that I seem to have with AirDrop is just getting the two devices to talk to each other. Just like, you guys are sitting right next to each other, you see each other, I click on it and just thinking, waiting. Right. And the other device is just like, I have to end up restarting both of them for it to work. And I'm just like, really, Apple? Really?
Give it the U1 chip.
Exactly.
It knows how close it is to your Mac,
but it doesn't know how to transfer. It has the U1 chip. It knows how close it is to the Mac. It's 86 centimeters away from the Mac, but it just doesn't work.
Or similar to what we're doing right now, you could make it the best FaceTime camera ever. So you could just straight Thunderbolt plug it into a Mac, and now it's a webcam, and it supports a really high bandwidth. So you could record, if you're a YouTuber, someone like us, you could record really high-res, high frame rate video directly into your Final Cut timeline.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even talking about iPad anymore, guys. I'm just talking new stuff. And I'm just talking about a Mac accessory at this point. I'm just like, there's so much that could be done with an Apple dedicated camera, and too much of it, in my opinion, gets writes off. The iPhone will do it fine, though. Nope.
No.
False. iPhone's good. iPhone's great at what it does. It's not. It's not DSLR, SLR mirrorless replacement.
I'd believe that argument if they were starting to film their own stuff with iPhones, but they when they do, they make you know about it because it's a big deal.
It's a good,
shot on iPhone.
It's a good, exactly, that's true. It's a good point and shoot, and I think it kills the competition with point and shoots. but here's my pushback with everything you just said, Drew. My fear is that it's going to get the iPad fate, that like it knows that and it has a sector it's meant to live in. The same way it's like the potential's there, and they're like, yeah, we know. And we know it could be an SLR mirrorless replacement or anything of these replacement. But it has its own space right here. And they're going to just give it...
The difference this time is I agree with them.
You agree with...
Really?
I think that there should be there will always fundamentally be a difference between trying to stuff a tiny little sensor in a phone versus what you could make with a dedicated camera.
I know,
I think that's a hardware difference.
Yeah.
Not with the iPad. That's a software wall.
Whereas
this is a hardware wall.
But so now, reversely, we see what the post-processing looks like with these photos and all the photography and stuff like that. And they could make the hardware, but they won't. Just like you could make the iPad run all this great software, but they won't. They are purposely
There's a bit more
it.
of an argument for it,
Huh?
I would say, though. Because you could say, like, that's going to cannibalize Mac sales. I don't think that's a good argument, but there's an argument.
Oh, with the iPad?
I'm literally... Yeah, but with the camera, I'm literally suggesting Apple keep all of their current products, release a new one that's thousands of dollars, and sell it at an extreme profit so that all of us will buy it. I'm just suggesting Apple make more money off of us. That's all I'm suggesting. I don't know what is it going to stop iPhone sales if there's a $5,000 dedicated camera? I don't think so.
I get what you're saying, because you're like, oh, they need to fragment the iPad so that way it has a purpose. I get what you're saying, but
they shouldn't. But I get it. It's a dumb argument, but it's an argument.
It's a ridiculous argument. But I get trying to play devil's advocate. I see them like, you don't need it. You can have your all-in-one. You don't need your wallet with you. You don't need this with you. You don't need your camera with you. It's all on your iPhone. And so just when you leave the house, just keep the iPhone on you. That's all you need. And they'll push that market, and it will have its limitations, like iPad has its limitations. I think that's I think intentional limitations. It shouldn't have any. They could have done a camera.
I don't even think they're intentional, though. I think they're going to do the very, very best they can to make the camera on the iPhone the best possible camera ever. But the hardware, because it has to be so small and because it can't have interchangeable lenses and it has to fit in this tiny corner, and that corner might get a little bit bigger, but it still has to be this thin and this narrow. There's a hardware block that will prevent it from ever becoming a Blackmagic or Red competitor. So I don't think it's them intentionally saying this could be better, but we're not going to let it be better. I think that the hardware will do that for them.
Let me ask both of you guys this question then. If Apple could have released a dedicated camera by then, when would that camera have came out?
Okay, it's not a problem of could they. It's a problem of should they. Apple's extremely selective on which markets they enter. Now,
are you being Jeff Goldblum right now? We spent so much time focusing if we could do this. We never stopped asking.
Oh, yeah.
I am
That's
Jeff.
a good point.
I am Jeff Goldblum.
You are delicious.
I'm sure that they've thought about this. I know for a fact they have enough camera production quality people, even just with their iPhone team, who are like, oh, wow, what if we had, not 3 millimeters to work with? What if we had, like, a full sensor and proper glass?
What if we didn't have to put this camera in a paper clip?
Exactly. And, yeah, I'm sure there's those discussions that have happened. But at the end of the day, Apple needs to bring something revolutionary in a way that is distinctly Apple. If you look at the current camera market, you got the Sonys, you got the Z cams, you got the Blackmagics, and yes, you even have the Reds. What Apple could actually bring to that market is really just convenience at the end of the day. I think that they'll have some good color science. They'll have, good quality sensors. They'll have good glass. I'm not dissing any of that, but what they're bringing uniquely to that market would be that ease of use and customer experience. But the problem is in the Pro market, just like we've seen with the AirPods Max, Pros didn't take to the AirPods Max because it was too convenient. You couldn't plug it into your DAC. You couldn't plug it into, all of these things. It was open backed or whatever they call it. You know, there's these
Open.
pro features that the pros wanted that Apple ignored in pursuit of the Apple customer experience, the Apple ease of use. And I would imagine if they went for a pro camera, it would not be competing with a Red camera. I would want it to. As a videographer, photographer, I would want a Sony competitor Apple product. But what they're going to provide is, you know, a better version of a point and shoot that's going to be pitched at the, you know, same market that AirPods Max were pitched at, which is basically two people who don't care about the lack of the pro feature. No, I'm joking about the two people.
They pitch it at the lowest common denominator.
Exactly. It's like, it's okay. It's pro. You're paying a pro price. You know, there's no way the Apple camera is going to be less than $2,000. Sorry, spoiler alert. They're going to be you're going to be paying, you know, pro level, you know, getting into low grade Cinecams, you know, up to high grade point and shoot, or you know, mirrorless, you know, DSLRs.
Yes.
But what you're going to be getting out of it is going to be a very easy to use $1,000 camera, right? It's going to be a basic level camera, just like I know, and some people do want that, and I would be interested.
I think that's a big market, personally. I think the camera market's ripe for. Here's the convenient one.
Yeah,
there's not much of
that. But I think many people will have the same criticisms with the Apple camera that we have with the AirPods Max, because as a person who. We're running this setup is about as janky as it gets, right? I have my camera plugged into one of these big battery banks. I have my microphone plugged into my camera using the onboard camera's preamps.
Your mic in a Starship.
I have my mic Starship. I have my monitors on as a direct line so I can hear myself, and then I have all of the video and audio going out through a mini HDMI port. And it's not a technical setup. At the end of the day, it's 4 ports and a Elgato Camlink knockoff. But I don't see Apple doing that. I don't see Apple providing all of those ports. They'll have one USB-C port, if that, if any ports, you know. And as a pro, I'm going to be like, okay, so I can't use this for FaceTime calls. Bummer. I can't plug my headphones in. Okay, maybe they could. Maybe they could over Thunderbolt. Fine. But
say power and data, one port.
Fine.
Plug it into
I couldn't use my headphones and my microphone setup. I'd have to, you know, use my H1 or VR for, you know, the audio preamp side, and it's just going to be close but no cigar for what an actual professional would want. And I'm not saying that my version of actual professional is better than others. That probably came out wrong, but what I would want out of it is probably going to be a more customizable feature set than what Apple will do, right? So look at the iOS camera app, right? It has the ability to shoot RAW. Like, you can download a third-party app that can shoot RAW pictures. You have been able to do that since, like, the iPhone 10 or something. It's not new.
Right.
But the default camera app has not done that. The default camera app doesn't have an option to change any camera settings besides, like, tap to focus and, like, maybe adjust the exposure slider if you really want to get technical.
Good frame rate resolution.
Okay, frame rate resolution on the video side, sure. But as a photographer, you can't adjust the white balance or the ISO, and it's just these things are taken care of in the background, and that's what makes the iPhone cameras so convenient and so user-friendly.
Right.
But if I'm going to be paying $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 for a camera, I want that control, because I'm someone who knows how to use those settings. And if I don't want to use the settings, there's an auto mode on my Sony. You know, right now we're using autofocus on an autofocus lens. Normally I don't do that. Normally I'm like Mr. Prime Lens, you know, get in the focus just right. But there is a level of convenience that comes to stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm apprehensive about this because my gut default will be to instantly love it, but I don't think it's going to fit my needs. And
you'll feel the same way how I felt about the AirPods Max.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point, Nick. I like that's a good comparison, and I agree with you. It wouldn't go after the Red. It wouldn't go after all these.
It would not be a flawless camera, for the record.
No.
I'm not suggesting that. I just think it's something that would make a more noticeable difference in the market than AirPods Max did. Like, when we talk about AirPods Max and our complaints with it, I don't think it offered much different from what was already around.
And I don't think the Apple camera
will
offer much different than what's already around. What are you thinking will be offered that's different?
AirDrop.
Okay.
Not having to use SD cards and adapters every time you import
that's
files.
similar
I think that's
to saying the
game
AirPods
changer.
Max auto pairs, and with
Wait,
the Sony
okay, I see
whatever.
what's happening.
No, I don't think it is.
Bluetooth pairing.
I think not having to use adapters and dongles every time you import stuff versus, okay, the AirPods connect with one pair. I don't think it's as...
Drew, I'm not saying this camera shouldn't
exist.
I'd be excited to see this camera exist too, for the very reason
that's
that
what
you're excited
you started
about it.
with.
But
You said,
but I don't think it's
know
for me.
if they should.
I don't know. If
I'm fine with it not being for you, but you said I don't know if they should.
I don't know if they should. I don't think Apple knows if they should. They would have it out if they knew if they should.
I'm saying they should. I'm not saying they will, but I don't see a great reason to not do it.
I'll give you. I got a counter
how
for
much
you, Drew.
overlap there is with the Mac market in photos and videos, and them shooting their own shows, and like I think this is just a pure profit route they could take. That no, it would not start outselling every camera on the market. There would be tons of reasons to not get it, but I think that it would offer something that separates itself more than AirPods Max did.
Here's my devil's advocate here. Here's why they, not that they shouldn't, here's why they wouldn't. Third-party apps is carrying the brunt of the load. With Filmic Pro and Double Take and stuff like that, they give you these features where you can go in and do the nitty-gritty adjustments and everything like that. And then you actually have hardware third-party makes, like what Moment or what, one of those that you could fixate certain lenses on the camera, and they do everything that they can to give the more quality image, while the iPhone is acted as the hub, the brain, the same thing as the Komodo for the thing.
Mhm.
Like Apple wouldn't do it because third parties doing the brunt, and they're doing the R&D for it. They're the guinea pigs for it. And when everything seems to be matured and ripe, if like, okay, this is the best we can get for doing adjustments and everything that Nick was talking about. Here's the best that we could do for camera lenses on this camera module. That's at the right thing right here as well. When all that's done, Apple then could probably be like, oh, well, here's our version. But then at that point, it's so like not Filmic Pro, but like LumaFusion. You'll make the case. We'll all make the case like, these guys are doing it just fine. I don't even need it. I don't care if they do it. It'll come to the point of not caring, and Apple will be like, great. And now all these mofos are buying more iPhones because that's the hub and that's the brain of it all. And it's a thriving ecosystem for third-party accessories to exist. So they won't be like, we're killing the competition. And so they wouldn't do it strictly because it's one less thing off their plate, and they can try to do something about spatial audio or whatever AR experience and stuff like that. So that's my count. That's my devil's advocate right there.
To me, it's just they already do so many of the stuff you're saying. They would have to bump up against third party. Like I think of the Pro Display XDR and how small of a market that was, and they intentionally were like, we're going after reference monitors that cost $40,000, and we're going to make a $6,000, but we're going to make it really easy to attach it to the stand.
Magnets.
You know, the magnetic. See, they go after these weird markets that I don't think were super ripe for disruption, and I don't even think Apple had much to add. Whereas they have the silicon, they have the hardware, they have the software, I think, to make a big disruption in this industry. Not that it would completely outsell everything and all the other camera companies would go bankrupt, but they would have an option out there, seeing how many people wear AirPods Max during interviews or during call, or seeing how many people talk about or buy the Pro Display. It's not most people, but we see them, especially in the YouTube community. People buy them, and people are willing to put up with the Apple tax because they know those little convenience features here and there. So no, it's not that we would all buy it and all instantly switch to it, or that there'd be no reason to get a third party. It would probably be similar to the AirPods Max launch of like, they got some things right, but they totally missed the mark in other places. But it'd be better than, in my opinion, nothing. You know, like now we have over-ear headphones with really, really good transparency mode. Cool. They may not be great, but it's better than not having any over-ear headphones with, active noise cancellation and transparency mode.
I couldn't stand behind my argument. You already convinced me. Because the thing is, like, it should be out there because at least we have a starting point, and then they can adjust from there. The Apple Watch had some bad first iterations on the Series 0 that they fixed with software, but they had a starting point to know where to start with. We see it in software all the time. We see it in hardware too. Here's a starting point. Here's what
with the HomePod.
The HomePod. Take the the keyboard, the Magic Keyboard for MacBook
Yeah.
and stuff. They have a starting point and then they adjust, and without having to compromise too much on form factor. They need to make this camera because at least it's a starting point. But this is me feeling confident they're going to make adjustments to HomePod Max, where we'll get something that's more like second gen is going to be the one that people really want, the same way HomePod Mini was the one that people want over HomePod. There will be refinements that happen. We could, if we start with the camera as soon as possible and nitpick and be like, I don't like how this thing does. Nick brought amazing points about like it's not giving me the granular control. Apple will take that into consideration, and then maybe a Gen 2 or a Gen 3 later, it would be right there. But we need something to start off of. It doesn't look right if you're using your iPhone to be the camera. The battery's compromised. You only have but one port to help feed anything, so the battery's going to take a hit, or you're going to have something that's going to be an issue with
your MagSafe pack.
Okay, but you got the MagSafe pack, and is it interfering with the prime lens that you put on at that point?
Yep.
You know, you're going to have this whole setup of stabilization stuff for this tiny little thing that's going to be off balance too, because everything else is just
Can you just imagine if they had the Deep Fusion software going on an actual camera sensor?
Dude, totally. I know. So that's the thing.
It's amazing.
I was going to bring up here, like, life is all about compromises, right? You're never going to be completely satisfied with everything. So, Drew, it sounds like you'd be willing to compromise some of the nitty-gritty control and possible exacting camera quality for convenience. Me,
yes.
I would rather retain that control at the expense of convenience. It's something I've been doing for a while now, and I much like having that control. Like, but the idea of having like Deep Fusion running on a 200 megapixel image, yes please.
better than real life.
Yeah, like yes
I
please.
Can
Or
smell
you
the camera. I can
out and
smell
about in the
photo.
field, and you're like, okay, I took these pictures. Share,
Dude.
and then it shows up.
That would be nice. And I'm
They're all there now.
not denying any of that. I'm just, me personally, I think if I was going to drop $2,000 to $5,000 on a camera, I'd look at something like a Z cam or more of like a cinema grade camera that has that control. And I'm not sure if Apple could really tempt me with convenience on that.
I think I could drop $2,000 on convenience. If it's $2,000, $3,000, whatever, and we give you the Deep Fusion, I think I'm the opposite on that, where it's like, cool, it's one less thing that I, as the creator or the DP behind the camera, like one less thing I got to focus on. Perfect. Like
I don't know. Well, it
I
would
would
have
happily.
We're debating on a completely hypothetical Apple product, but I guess it would depend on what these convenience features were. You know,
Sure.
if I could do a live stream with just a Thunderbolt cable, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that would be kind of cool.
That would be a
useful.
super win for me.
If it
and
was-
all the tech exists.
If it was
would be so simple.
If it was IP68 water resistant, I'd be like, yes, please. That would be amazing, because almost all cameras right now are splash proof, but there's no guarantee.
I want Apple to do what they did with over-ear headphones with the camera. I want them to go balls to the wall, technical like build quality really high, and they just go overkill for no reason. And okay, they don't let. That's something I could see them doing, not letting you adjust the color science, or you can only shoot in ProRes, so it definitely won't work on the iPad, or you can only shoot in very specific formats. There's like
so
no
salty.
color settings. The reason I'd be chill with it is probably because the same way as my iPhone is like, most of the time its auto color correction is pretty good. And that's it's probably what I want anyway. So I would be like, good enough. That's how I kind of use my Blackmagic cameras, is they're like default settings. I'm like, good enough for me. So making it prioritize certain things as convenient and other things not giving you much control just for the sake of it's simple and easy to use. I'm so in that demographic, and I bet so many content creators are, and that's ultimately what these cameras are for. They're not for the everyday person. This is a professional tool at this point.
It's the
more of a
perfect
Mac
YouTube
accessory.
camera.
It'd be the perfect YouTube camera. You can flex about it in the Apple community, and you can plug it into your Mac and have a really great live streaming setup with one cable. I'm looking at my setup right now and having HDMI and power and all these cables having to feed everywhere. It's like,
No, it's inconvenient.
if
I'll
Apple
give you that.
tackled this, they could do so much more. So that's why, when the news is slow and there's less to talk about, people often start asking, what's a product category you want Apple to go into that they're not in currently? That's by far the top of my list.
Banking.
Like,
Ooh.
the services,
I'm joking.
But
No, I
banking
want
would
the
be
camera.
cool. But
BVA would still buy
if
their
we're
bank,
talking
Randy.
hardware,
Huh? What's that?
I just
BVA would still buy the Apple Bank.
Stop
after
it!
like 2
Stop
years.
it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Camera's the one. I think that's a. I think we're gonna be mildly surprised. I am not being. I don't know if the word's superstitious, but I feel like this is
Being a little stitious.
No, I don't know. We're super just mini stitious that this is something that they've been working on behind the scenes, because the way we're debating these philosophies
I wish.
of things, like,
I haven't heard anything.
that's
But
this. Well, not everything's gonna leave that secret white room that Johnny Ives built. So there's so many prototypes of different things that they're playing around with. There's no way that they have not entertained the idea of a camera when they have all the little pieces of the puzzle here. It'd be cool.
yeah, they've got to if they're bringing back the SD card slot.
Right?
Isn't that direct evidence
True.
that they're like, well, there's a lot of people out there who use SD cards, including ourselves. So it's like,
Yeah. And what?
why aren't you using your
So,
iPhone, Craig?
Even Steve Jobs and the old guard would say it's like they started with iPod and iPhone because it's like they wanted something better because everyone was listening with CD players and they didn't like it. So if Apple has to do something that I'm sure they get just as frustrated, their first thought, like it's in their DNA, is like, well, how can we make this better? And so right now, what we as the consumer is seeing on iPhones and iPads and little consumer things like that as an accessory of things, a complementary piece that becomes more and more of a focus each keynote. Apple has to be working on something dedicated for it because, like you said, Drew, Apple TV Plus, they're filming their own stuff, keynotes, everything about it is just like, we can make this better in house. I
agree.
I think it's happening.
And I've yet to hear a great argument against it, just because all I've heard is they want to make the iPhone better, but
it's not binary. It's
the
not
hardware
one or the
limitation.
Other. You know what I mean?
Right,
make
you
the
can do
iPhone
both.
better
Exactly.
while
Yeah.
also doing this.
Mm-hmm. To me, it's like saying, we don't need the Mac Pro anymore because the MacBook Air is so good, and the MacBook Air will get better over time. I'm like, yes, it will, but that doesn't mean you don't need to work on higher end, towers for people who do care about that type of thing, who are willing to spend the money. There's money to be made there, Apple. I'm pitching you how to take my money. That's all I'm doing.
Since you failed on the iPad, let me give you another idea. I'll give you a second chance.
Yeah.
You failed the
Drew,
iPad.
here's another suggestion.
Drew just has $2,000 that he's been waiting to spend since like March. He's like, Apple, take it, take it.
Just need something good.
Yeah.
Something real good. And the iMac is destroyed and the iPad's messed up. And, yeah,
True,
it's
this just
all
isn't a
falling
good
apart
year.
almost.
2020 wasn't a good year
No,
for
it
everybody, but 2021's not a good year for Apple sheep.
Unless you like chins.
Unless you like chins and white bezels and regular looking phones.
Although of all my Apple rants, I'm very excited for the MagSafe pack, and I'm tempted to keep it, but it'll depend on if I can wirelessly charge it.
Sure.
I know it can receive a wireless charge, so if I could just flip
it on
the
the
inside
MagSafe.
and put it on a puck and I don't know if it does, but if it charges that way, I'll be much more tempted to keep it because I know I can use it on my next iPhone, and if I'm on the go and someone needs a charge, I can hand it to them and they can charge, and I just think that'll be really handy to just be like, here you go. Have a battery bank that you don't need a cable for, and just slap it on the back. And that's the first thing I wanted as soon as I saw MagSafe. It was like, battery pack.
Yeah.
It's like, slap it right on there, and it doesn't. So
Selfishly, I hope it does. It could wirelessly charge as well on top. That would be cool, but I don't think I would still do it until they come out. I would like to see a black variant, just because it's.
Oh yeah, that was weird that there wasn't any color options.
Yeah.
I'd like a black one too, but I don't care enough to not buy it for that.
Sure.
But do you have theory? I was going to ask you guys, but then we got distracted by a billion things. I was going to ask what your guys' theories on. Yeah. Why do you think they waited till now to announce the MagSafe pack?
Honestly, I know the exact reason why. I was talking to one of my sources at Apple. Tim was listening to our podcast last week, and he reached into his drawer of unreleased Apple products, and he just pulled out the MagSafe back and tossed it as his assistant and said, make sure this hits Apple stores by Tuesday.
Because it's maybe
He throwed it to you.
Maybe they have a bunch of things like this just at the ready for slow news times when it comes to quarter.
It's like a YouTube channel.
No.
Yeah, no one's talking about us
not
recently.
Slow news like that, but slow news and like every quarter with their earnings call and stuff like that, give you something to kind of just talk about. You know, they never go a full 90 days without something happening. I don't know why right now, unless it's because they are. This is an iPhone accessory to help boost iPhone sales still, and people that aren't us, people that don't listen to this show, you know, John and Sally from, down the market over there, who just like, I need a new phone, and it helps sells iPhones still. Any accessory helps sells iPhone. Something with a battery bank would be a great compliment, especially since now that people have seen Apple has data. It's like, all right, well, people are saying that the batteries aren't lasting as long, like say like the 12 mini. Like, oh, biggest complaint is that the battery's not lasting. This is a great way to just kind of re-energize iPhone sales, because now if Nick waited just 2 hours later, he would have bought that for his iPhone.
Literally, I would have.
So then his biggest complaint about iPhone 12 mini for the rest of the year would have just ceased. So that's on a very hyper-specific example, but having that for everything else, for anybody else like that, it all helps with iPhone sales, especially as we're coming to the end of the 12 cycle.
Right.
We're about to hit 13 or 12S or whatever. This is a great way to just give that last nudge to the 12 series for the sell right there. That's my opinion. That's why I think they did it now.
Kind of feels like a
It'd
trap.
be sad if
Admiral Akbar style. It's like late July,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, buy an iPhone 12. You'll want it." It's a trap.
it's a little boost right at the last minute. This is when sales are probably the weakest.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
It makes me speculate if it really is a trap and it doesn't work on the next iPhone. It only works on the 12. So they're like, well, we better launch these now because they're going to be worthless in a couple months.
Oh my goodness.
We'll sell as many as we can.
That would hurt so bad.
Oh,
Oof.
I don't think that will happen, but I won't say it's impossible.
Yeah.
That's not true.
They move the coil just a little bit. They
Just a little bit.
They make it just a little different.
Or they just flip the polarity of the magnets. So instead of it being, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, it's negative, positive, negative, positive, and the whole thing
Yeah.
sits like 5 degrees wrong.
Then they would have it
That
as
would
a
be
cell.
just such a, yeah. That would be such a blatant,
It sits like that.
attack.
It's just off a
So
little.
people just live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That means the battery pack was meant for iPhone 12 that people aren't upgrading. It's like, no, this is to take care of the people who don't upgrade. Like, it's a passive. It's a passive thing.
That'd be so mean.
That is mean.
It's just dumb enough to work.
It's so dumb. It just might work.
Craig was over there twirling his evil mustache that he uses when he's not recording fun videos.
Do you guys? let's do a speculation right here at the end of all this. What do you think the final lineup of 12 will be? Will all the 12 go away after September? Will some of the 12 stick around? Is it what are your thoughts on what happens to 12 in 60 days?
Wow, it's coming up, huh?
It's right. Yeah, it's coming up. So yeah.
My prediction is none of them are going to make it. I think every iPhone 12 will be discontinued in September and be replaced with 13 or 12S or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my prediction. It will keep only the 12 mini, and they will not make a refresh 12 mini S.
Wow. That'd be a big incorrect prediction by the leakers.
I don't know what the
Do they
leaker
keep
said.
the
so
price of the 12 mini?
Sure, I don't know. What do you think?
No, drop it by 50.
Ooh. That'd be interesting. I think what Nick is suggesting makes sense. As the sales for the mini have been low, it's probably logical to just like say we're not going to make a new mini, but if you want a mini, it's still there. It's a little cheaper now, but here's the real phones. This is what people want. And just make a 6.1 inch model and then 2 Pros. Because that's what they did in 2018 and 19. Yeah. 2 Pro sizes and then one size fits all for everyone else. Now they tried to have 2 sizes for everyday people. Didn't seem to work out. So, yeah, it makes sense. I just don't think that's what'll happen.
I would hope not, but I'm just trying to throw something out there. So if I end up being right, we can reference this episode and be like, called it!
Yeah, good job,
Nick has been shockingly right a lot of the time.
Unfortunately, I feel like Nick will be wrong on this one because those reports earlier in the year about discontinuing the 12 mini factory because they have more than enough to carry out the rest of the year indicates that they're stopping.
Maybe they have more than enough to carry it out for 2 years. That's how bad it's selling.
That's sad. That's really sad.
To be honest, guys, many. I don't get out much, and I kind of live out in the sticks, but in my real life, I've never seen another 12 mini besides our 3 12 minis and, other people on the internet. Like, I haven't seen anyone just at the grocery store using a 12 mini. I've seen people using 12s and 12 Pros, but not a 12 mini. Yeah. So
my brother-in-law
sad, though.
Got one.
Really? Yeah. I have a good friend who got one, and you guys got one, and,
my brother-in-law, who does not watch my tech videos, he's not into tech at all. We visited a couple months ago, and he just pulled out his phone. No.
Okay.
No. I don't have any Android brother-in-laws. I have some Android cousins. But both my brother-in-laws use iPhones. And
good.
I wouldn't let him marry my sister if he had an Android. I was like, no.
No,
that's not what happened. But he pulled out his phone, and it was a black 12 mini.
Nice.
And I was like, nice phone you got there. And then I pulled my phone out. And he has a work phone and a personal phone, and they're both black 12 mini.
He said, hey, nice phone you got there. Him, what are you doing? He doesn't realize.
And then he moved away from me. Didn't say anything. No.
Backed away slowly. But wait, you said he has a work phone and a personal phone, and they're both 12 minis. Does he not realize that eSIMs are a thing?
They were company issued. So
okay, yeah.
It was not up to him. It was just like, have 2 phones. And he was like, all right.
There you go. All right. That works.
I wouldn't complain. If someone wanted to give me 2 iPhones, I'd be like, great.
Sure.
Thanks. Now he's going to have focus modes, and it'll be pointless.
There you go.
But that's not out yet, I guess.
I feel like on an enterprise level, the 12 mini or any mini, the cheapest phone is always the best one because it saves the company money by buying the cheaper one. That's what they did on the government side. We always bought 11 and 10R were our most issued government phones that we would put out. I didn't stick around long enough to see what would happen with the 12 series, but I would imagine that the 12, what would have been the 12 was the 12 mini to be issued out just because it was the cheapest one. That's why I'm shocked that 12 mini did so bad, because I felt like, at least on an enterprise level, this is something I had talked about at work, where it'd be like, no, yeah, everybody saves money and it gives you all the same it's not taking away any features software-wise in regards to what the iPhone we need you to do for responding to emails. You know what I mean? Like, it's not now it's cheaper than the 11 or the 10R, because our contract was with AT&T and they would discontinue it. So I'm shocked that it just didn't do as well. But
yeah. And everyone who I know got it pretty much loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear much regret other than the battery issue.
We knew that, though.
Most people
leading into it, though. This was speculated.
Yeah.
That's common sense. Like, the battery's gonna suck, but let's see what it is. And I said, and I told you guys, and myself included, worst case scenario, got 10 months to live with it. You don't like it, get something else. And it's been a good 10 months for me.
Yep.
All things.
A good
likewise.
Theory I saw was that the iPhone SE took the blunt of the people willing to upgrade.
Yeah.
So when the SE2 came out, everyone who wanted kind of a smaller new iPhone had already upgraded. So then 12 mini came out. That market had already kind of acted. That's a good prediction I've seen people make. That I'm like, there's probably a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
And the price is pretty high for a small phone.
I've seen a lot of people have the iPhone SE. Because I was thinking about what Nick said. I don't see anybody with a mini anywhere, either in San Diego or out here. But people comment to me, it's like, I love how small that phone is. Like, get it. They're like, No, one person I had a conversation with.
No.
They said no because they got the iPhone SE earlier in the year.
Oh, yeah.
So they were like, nah.
Makes sense. SE's a really good value if you don't mind the home button and stuff. It's really hard to argue with someone why they shouldn't get an SE if that's what they found. I don't think they care about the biometrics like that. They just care about iMessage and FaceTime. That's what they always tell me. Yeah.
Like, what do you care about the?
Can this do texting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, why do you like that,
does it keep my pictures though?
Yeah. All right.
Does it have a camera?
Yeah. Most people don't care.
Yeah. I'm in.
I'll take it. Is it cheap? Yeah, $400. Sure, that's $400, and I get iMessage and most people don't genuinely seem to care about the biometrics.
No.
Or the bezel.
No. Most don't.
I'm like, okay, well,
no one cares.
I'm happy for
all this is
it's
pointless.
Just a phone. It's just a phone. You use it to get on
social
media or TikTok, Randy. TikTok.
You could get famous on TikTok with an SE or a 12 mini. Doesn't matter.
But you look less broke when you have a Pro.
Don't make fun of it.
He's a pro.
Says the guy with
I want to make a Oh, actually, since you brought it up, Nick, somebody asked me about why, because I just jumped on TikTok recently.
Self-plug.
No, I'm not. I don't care because it's.
Do not follow Randy Vasquez on TikTok.
I'm not making money off of it, so I don't. I'm just having fun with it. But I only have TikTok on a phone that has all my information off of it. So.
Oh, okay.
That's my workaround. It's like
they're not getting nothing out of you.
Well, nothing that you couldn't find from other sources. That's like name and email and stuff like that, and that part's fine. Nothing about that has been compromised for me. But all the other stuff, it's on the phone that doesn't have. I'm not signed into nothing, so I have my workaround. And from a creator standpoint, when I found out that all my albums and stuff were on TikTok, strategically as a business thing, it's good to have a presence there. It's like work, but I might as well have fun with it. And I've done nothing musically. It's all skits and stuff like that.
Which are funny, by the way.
Which you love, dude. They're blowing up more on Instagram than they are on TikTok.
That makes sense. Instagram's huge.
You should be less funny, Randy.
He can't do it.
It's impossible.
He can't.
It's impossible.
I'm glad I inspired you to be less funny, though.
That was Nick's thing, you know.
That is my thing. Take the comedy level from 100 and bring it back down to an 80.
And that's our constant dynamic of why we fight, because I'm always trying to bump it back up to 100. Yeah.
You have closing thoughts, gents?
Air power's dead.
And Apple better release a battery pack for the 12 minute.
Rip.
Yeah. Next week I'll talk about it. Randy
Okay.
had his Beats buds, and I'll do the pack since it sounds like I'm the only one getting it. So I'm excited.
There you go.
I'm looking formed to it, guys. See
Take
y'all
care,
next
all.
week.
Have a great week.
Bye.